Have you ever studied for hours thinking you nailed it, only to forget everything the next day? Welcome to English Made Familiar, where we turn the complicated into simple and make English a part of your life. Today, you'll discover how your memory actually works, and more importantly, how to use it like never before. This isn't about cramming until you burn out. It's about using your brain the right way, with focus, emotion, mental images, and powerful techniques that truly activate your mind. Stick with me until the end, because you're going to learn step by step how to memorize vocabulary, phrases, and English content in a lasting way, with strategies rooted in neuroscience, creativity, and simple habits, all explained clearly, practically, and with a touch of fun. And I promise, after this video, you'll never study the same way again. Most people think they have a bad memory, but what almost no one realizes is that this is really just a result of not knowing how memory works. Imagine this. Your short-term memory is like a whiteboard. You write something on it, and if you don't act fast, it fades in minutes. Long-term memory, on the other hand, is like a permanent notebook. The trick is learning how to transfer information from the whiteboard into that notebook. And yes, that's a skill you can train. The most common mistake is believing that memory is a talent, not a trainable ability. This belief is so deeply rooted that it stops many people from even trying. But as any wise mentor would say, no one is born knowing how to play the piano. Yet with practice, anyone can master it. Memory works the same way. The difference between someone who forgets easily and someone who remembers everything lies in how they train their brain, not in some natural gift. To master memory, you have to treat it like a muscle, and that takes training, strategy, and consistency. Techniques like visualization, association, and spaced repetition are like mental gym equipment. But the first step is simple. Understanding that yes, you can improve. Those who ignore this truth stay stuck in scattered notes, colorful highlighters, and last-minute panic. But those who wake up to it discover a whole new world. And that world begins with the one thing most people lack: attention. Many people blame their memory for forgetting things, but the truth is a bit more uncomfortable. The problem isn't memory, it's attention. The modern mind is buried under notifications, worries, and non-stop stimulation. And in that chaos, focus dissolves. It's like trying to fill a bucket full of holes. No matter how much water you pour in, it just leaks out. So it's no surprise when people complain that they can't remember, when their brain never had a chance to register anything in the first place. You only remember what you truly notice with presence. Think about it. How many times have you read an entire page only to realize you didn't retain a single word? That's not a memory issue. That's a lack of real attention. Just 5 seconds of focused presence can be the difference between forgetting and remembering. It's like hitting the save button in your brain. Real learning begins when you look at something with genuine interest and intent. Here's a practical tip. Before studying anything important, pause. Take a breath. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Eliminate noise, both around you and inside you. When you open your eyes again, make a commitment. For the next 5 minutes, I will be fully here. That simple choice changes everything. Because once your mind aligns with the present, it opens up, ready to capture and store information deeply. And that's exactly when the power of images kicks in. The human brain is naturally visual. Long before writing existed, people told stories through drawings on cave walls. That's because thinking in images is more instinctive, more lasting. Words on their own are abstract. But when you turn a concept into a vivid mental picture, something exaggerated, funny, or even bizarre, it sticks. It's like tattooing a thought into your mind using emotional and visual ink at the same time. Let's take a simple example. To remember the name Lily, just repeating it mentally won't help much. Now, Imagine that person with a crazy hat made of lilies growing out of their head. There you go. That odd scene is way more likely to stay in your memory than the name by itself. And it's not about being creative. It's about understanding your brain's native language. It stores what it can see, even if only in your imagination. The trick is to train this process. Every time you learn something new, ask yourself, how can I picture this in a ridiculous or emotional way? The weirder the image, the stronger the memory. A math formula can become an action scene. A technical term? A strange character. Over time, this habit turns studying into a mental movie, where you're the screenwriter, the director, and of course, the main character. And if there's a story taking shape, the next technique will show you just how powerful that can be. The human mind is in love with stories. Since ancient times, we've learned about the world through narratives passed down from generation to generation. Our brains don't work well with cold, disconnected lists. They crave plots, characters, twists. That's why turning content into stories is one of the most powerful ways to lock information into memory. Instead of memorizing random items, you build a visual sequence that actually makes sense. Even if it's totally crazy, let's see this in action. Imagine you need to remember apple, horse, store, and candle. Don't just repeat the words, create a story. A giant apple falls from the sky and hits a horse on the head. The horse panics and gallops into a store, knocking over everything, until it finds a lit candle right in the middle of the counter. Done. That absurd sequence became a story. And even if it sounds childish, your brain will remember it far better than a dry list. This technique isn't about logic. It's about connection. The more illogical and exaggerated the story, the more it sticks. Stories activate emotion, provide context, and create visual hooks for memory retrieval. A student who transforms their study material into wild narratives gains a huge edge, because without realizing it, they're dodging the forgetting curve through creativity. And when that creativity meets the right kind of repetition, well, the next step becomes unavoidable. Everyone has fallen for the illusion of studying for hours, feeling confident, only to forget everything the next day. That's called cramming, stuffing your brain with information in a short, intense burst, usually the night before a test. Does it work? Only temporarily. Science has proven that the forgetting curve starts dropping right after the first exposure to new information. Without review, what seemed learned vanishes like smoke. That's where spaced repetition becomes a game changer. Spaced repetition works like a well-timed reminder for your brain. By reviewing at gradually increasing intervals, after 1 hour, 1 day, 2 days, 4 days, 1 week, you challenge your mind to recall just when it's about to forget. This strengthens neural pathways and pushes content into long-term memory. It's not magic, it's applied neuroscience. Think of it like watering a plant at just the right moments. You don't drown it, but you also never let it dry out. Simple, yet powerful. Here's the golden tip. Get organized. Use a spreadsheet, an app, or even a notebook. What matters is having a system that respects those intervals. And remember, reviewing isn't just passive rereading. It's actively recalling what you studied. And that brings us straight into the emotional layer. Because when something makes you feel something, it's already halfway to being unforgettable. If there's one thing memory loves more than images, it's emotion. Think about it. You probably remember exactly where you were when you heard a shocking piece of news or experienced a deeply personal moment. That's because emotions act like a highlighter in your brain, marking the memory as important. On the other hand, anything flat, dull, or emotionless tends to fade fast. That's why studying with emotion isn't just possible. It's essential. The key is to create emotional connections with what you're learning. Studying history, imagine yourself right there on the battlefield, hearing the chaos, feeling the fear. Learning about triangles? Picture one as a giant slice of pizza. with melting cheese and stuffed crust. Sounds silly? Maybe. But the brain loves this kind of exaggerated, emotional, even playful imagery. It doesn't need perfect logic. It needs intensity. The more personal the meaning, the deeper the memory. And here's the twist. The emotion doesn't have to be real. Fake, imagined, symbolic emotions work just as well. Make your stories tragic, funny, absurd, whatever creates impact. Tie formulas to characters, link dates to emotional moments. Even a little bit of feeling can turn dry facts into something unforgettable. And once that memory feels alive inside you, the most powerful thing you can do next is teach it. Teaching is, without exaggeration, one of the most powerful ways to remember. When you explain something, you're forced to organize your thoughts, retrieve what you know from memory, and put it into words. And that process, that effort, is where the real magic happens. It's like rebuilding a castle with your own hands. Every brick, every piece of information has to be revisited, repositioned, and reinforced. Your brain loves that, because teaching strengthens the very structure of what you've learned. And the best part? You don't even need an audience. You can teach yourself out loud by recording your voice, writing a social media post, or even talking to your pillow. The key is activating the process. When you speak about what you've learned, your mind labels that information as valuable. And just like any student who becomes a mentor, you begin to notice gaps in your own knowledge. And filling those gaps takes your understanding even deeper. Think of it as reviewing with a purpose. While many people study passively, hoping to understand better next time, the person who teaches is already 2 steps ahead. Because teaching is a workout in clarity, simplicity, and expression. It's like testing the strength of a bridge you built. If it can handle the weight of your words, it's solid. And when that bridge connects to familiar places, it leads you straight into one of memory's oldest architectures. Imagine walking through your house and, in each room, finding an important piece of information waiting for you. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? But this is a real technique. The memory palace uses places you already know, your house, your school, your daily route, to store information. Your brain recognizes these locations, and you attach vivid visual images to them. The information stops being abstract and gains a physical space in your mind. For example, let's say you need to memorize the planets in our solar system. Put the sun at your front door, a giant fireball lighting up everything. Then Mercury in the kitchen, popping like popcorn on a hot pan. Next, Venus, lounging on your couch, tossing pink feathers into the air. And so on. Each planet gets a room with a wild, exaggerated image. This turns a boring list into a guided mental walk, one your brain will actually enjoy taking. Creating your memory palace is an exercise in imagination and organization. And you can build as many as you want. One for vocabulary, another for formulas, another just for historical dates. The secret is reusing familiar places and reinforcing the images regularly. Over time, your brain navigates these palaces with ease, pulling up memories like opening drawers. And on this inner journey, a new nighttime ritual can make it all even more effective. Few moments in the day are as powerful for memory as the 10 minutes before you fall asleep. That's when your brain starts deciding what to keep and what to discard. Reviewing during that window is like whispering to your mind, "Hey, this part matters." And what's incredible is that this simple habit boosts memory consolidation during sleep, naturally, without any extra effort. But be careful. What you consume during that time also counts. If the last thing you see is a mindless video or endless scrolling, guess what your brain will prioritize? Exactly, digital junk. So create a nighttime ritual. Dim the lights, grab your notebook or flashcards, and review the key points from your day. Visualize, connect, feel. Those few minutes, when used with intention, can do more for your memory than hours of distracted studying. More than just a study hack, reviewing before bed is a way to end your day with purpose. It's a sign of commitment to yourself and your goals. And once this becomes a habit, you'll start to feel the results. Waking up with clearer thoughts, better recall, and the sense that your brain kept working while you slept. And in the morning, when you write it down by hand, the cycle of learning becomes even stronger. There's something almost magical about writing with pen and paper. It's not just nostalgia, it's neuroscience. When you write by hand, you activate deep areas of the brain linked to coordination, attention, and memory. It's like telling your brain, "This matters. Save it." Typing, no matter how fast, doesn't create the same effect. Writing requires rhythm, word choice, and a closer connection to what you're learning. It's like tattooing your thoughts with invisible ink onto your memory. Here's a simple example. When learning a new word, don't just read or listen to it. Grab a sheet of paper and write the word, a sentence using it, and something that connects it to your life. Maybe a memory, a place, even a song. That combo, writing plus personal context, transforms a random word into a permanent resident in your memory palace. Repetitive typing can't do that. Conscious writing can. Make this a daily habit. At the end of every study session, take 5 minutes to write down what stood out most. It could be a mind map, scattered phrases, or even wild doodles. What matters is using your hand as an extension of your mind. The more you write, the more you organize your thoughts. And once things are clear on paper, it's time to test what really stuck. That's where active recall comes in. Most people don't realize it, but real learning doesn't happen when you read. It happens when you try to remember without looking. That's the core of active recall, forcing your brain to pull information from memory instead of just reviewing passively. Is it uncomfortable? A little. But that struggle is exactly what makes the memory stronger. Every time you try to recall, you're reinforcing the neural pathways that build deep learning. You can apply this in a simple and practical way. Close your book and ask yourself, what did I just study? Write down everything you remember, without peeking. Then go back and check what you missed. This turns your mind on like a muscle during a workout. Flashcards are great too, with a question on one side and the answer on the other. Personal quizzes turn study time into a mental game. The goal is to avoid passive reading and challenge your memory directly. This technique is powerful because it exposes what you thought you knew, but actually didn't. That honest moment, facing your knowledge gaps, is what separates average learners from extraordinary ones. Mastering active recall means mastering your own thinking. And in a world overflowing with information, knowing what to remember and what to block becomes a mental survival skill. Which brings us to the final key: protecting your mind from overload.